What is up, amigos? Hope you're doing awesome. So, what if the scariest part of death isn't when it arrives, but when it's delayed? What if escaping death doesn't mean you're safe? It just means your countdown resets. That's the core idea Final Destination built its name on. And after years of sequels, fan theories, and gory deaths, the franchise returns. But this time, it goes backwards. Final Destination Bloodlines isn't a continuation. It's an origin story, and not just of death's design, but also of a franchise finding its purpose again. In an age of lazy reboots and half-hearted film service, Bloodlines actually does something rare. It respects the rules, pushes the creativity, and still manages to make us care. It's not just about watching people die in weird ways anymore. It's about why these deaths matter and what it means to run from fate. The story centers around Stephanie Reyes, a college student who starts having disturbing nightmares. She returns to her hometown to reconnect with her family, only to discover a dark secret buried in her bloodline. Back in 1968, her grandmother, Iris Campbell, had a vision that saved people from a deadly disaster at the Skyview restaurant tower. That one act of interrupting Death's plan is what started it all. Now, decades later, Death has come back to correct its mistake. But it's not just coming for the original survivors. It's coming for their descendants. That's where the film's title, Bloodlines, hits hard. The consequences of cheating death aren't limited to one moment or one person. They ripple across generations. As Stephanie uncovers more about her grandmother's past and the twisted design that binds their family, we realize that Final Destination isn't just a franchise about kills. It's a franchise about karma, fate, and inevitability. It's about the price of survival. Like every Final Destination film, the tension lies in how death strikes. You're constantly scanning the background trying to guess what will go wrong next. A small screw, a loose wire, a spilled drink, everything could be fatal. But unlike some of the older entries that leaned too much into shock, Bloodlines builds a mood. It lets fear sink in slowly, and the death scenes here are more creative than cruel. From a vending machine's inner coil to a horrifying MRI machine scene, the film plays on real-world logic and turns safety into illusion. That balance between reality and fear is what makes this installment stand out. Caitlin, as Stephanie, gives the film a grounded, emotional center. Her performance feels real, not over the top or robotic. She portrays confusion, fear, and determination with ease, helping us invest in the story beyond just who dies next. Theo Briones as Charlie, her younger brother, adds charm and vulnerability, reminding us what's really at stake. Richard Harmon, who plays tattoo artist Eric Campbell, easily steals the spotlight with the most talked about death sequence in the film. His character is pierced all over, and when his final moment arrives in an MRI room, it is not just terrifying, it's creatively brutal, and it was shot using mostly practical effects over 5 days. That kind of dedication adds weight to the horror. But what stands out most is how the film treats its characters. Unlike earlier entries that often treated people like props between death scenes, Bloodlines actually gives them space to breathe, to speak, and to matter. You care about them not just because you're waiting to see how they die, but because the story takes its time to make their fears and conflicts relatable. It's a refreshing change in a franchise that was once more about spectacle than substance. Now here's where Bloodlines earns even more respect. The directors, Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein, took a huge risk. This wasn't just a sequel, this was a reboot with a soul. What sets this film apart is how it combines nostalgia with innovation. It doesn't throw away the franchise's old rules, it refines them. The tension builds slowly. You're not just watching for deaths, you're watching for how and when they strike. The filmmakers take everyday objects and make them terrifying again. Vending machines, hospital equipment, household items. That's a true callback to the franchise's early gory days. Visually, the film is slick and sharp. The aspect ratio changes subtly whenever death is near, adding subconscious fear. The IMAX format takes this a step further, making certain scenes feel huge and suffocating. You don't even notice the technical craft at first, but it's there, guiding your fear. And now let's talk about the soul of this franchise, Tony Todd. For more than 2 decades, Tony Todd was Final Destination's shadowy guide. William Bludworth, the mysterious mortician who knew death's roots but never interfered. His deep voice and the calm delivery and chilling presence became iconic, and in Bloodlines he appears for the final time. But here's what makes it special. This wasn't just another cameo. Tony Todd was battling cancer during the filming. He knew this might be his last role, and in one of the film's most haunting scenes, his character speaks a line that's no longer fiction. It's truth, it's his legacy. He says, and I quote, "I intend to enjoy the time I have left, and I suggest you do the same. Life is precious. Enjoy every single second. You never know when. Good luck." Unquote. That wasn't scripted. That was Tony Todd saying goodbye, not just to the franchise, but to us. The directors let him improvise that scene. And when you watch it, you'll feel it. The weight, the truth, the emotion. It's not just Bludworth speaking, it's a man facing his mortality and choosing grace. This isn't just a horror movie moment, it's cinema at its rawest. What also makes Bloodlines engaging is the effort behind its most terrifying moments. Richard Harmon's now famous MRI death scene we just spoke about earlier, where his character's piercings everywhere are violently ripped from his body, wasn't just another VFX heavy sequence. It was developed in collaboration with Harmon himself and shot mostly using practical effects across 5 full days. Another brutal death involved a vending machine's coil springing, was crafted as a twisted homage to the franchise's love for turning harmless everyday items into weapons of fate. In one more intense sequence, Harmon's character is dragged by his nose ring, and this too was achieved with clever physical rigging, not CGI. The directors Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein were so passionate about honoring the tone of the franchise that they even filmed a fake death scene in their own home as a part of their pitch to Warner Brothers, which ultimately helped them land the job. These little behind-the-scenes stories remind us that Bloodlines wasn't just made to cash in on nostalgia. It was built with respect for the original films and an eagerness to push the envelope further. In a time where most reboots fail, Final Destination Bloodlines does the impossible. It brings almost a dead franchise back to life. It remembers what made it special, it adds heart, it plays by the old rules but makes them feel fresh. It gives us terrifying deaths, yes, but also an emotional reason to care. And in doing that, it gives us closure, not just for the story but for Tony Todd, the voice of fate. So watch this film not just for the thrills, not just for the horror, but for what it represents, a final destination with meaning. Thank you for watching us today. Do like, share and comment, and please do subscribe for more honest reviews, opinions and all things cinema. Take care, stay awesome, and bye-bye.